Good morning, everyone. We're just giving everyone a chance to come on in, which all the numbers are everyone's starting to join, which is great. Thank you again for joining us on our Tuesdays at 10. Hopefully everyone enjoyed last month's one on consultations, and we'll get started in just a second. Good morning, everyone, for coming in. And I think we'll get started. So thank you, everyone, for joining our Tuesdays at 10. We are very happy to bring you our new and exciting topic. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica and I'm our Head of Education. And I have the lovely Rachel joining us today, who is our New South Wales trainer. And I know a lot of people have had the pleasure in meeting Rachel. So thank you, Rachel, for joining.
Thanks for having me. Morning, everyone. I'm super excited for today.
And so we'll get started, I think, now. I think we've got everyone joined. Now, if anyone does want to comment or ask a question, both of us will be monitoring the chat today. So if you want to pop your questions down into the chat, just make sure that it's also that it says reply to everyone. So that way everyone gets to see your great questions and answers as well. So we're looking forward to sharing this amazing topic with you all. And I know it's quite a hot topic at the moment, and it's something that everyone's sort of struggling to treat, and we're seeing more and more skin issues coming up. So we're really excited to share that with you. So let's get started. So let's have a look first at what our upcoming webinars are going to be for the month. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Tuesdays at 10, because it's fairly new, at the first Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m, we will be coming live to you to share a hot topic. So today we're going to be talking about skin barrier function, which I think is amazing. I love looking at our barrier and repairing that skin barrier function ready for our skin treatments. Once we got that skin barrier nice and ready, we're going to lead into how to prep your skin for peels. And I think that's another big hot topic, because people aren't always sure on how to prepare and prep their skin, their client's skin correctly. Then we're going to be talking to you, so that will be in May. In June, we're going to look at targeting specific skin concerns and how we can treat some little hot topics. So just to let you know, we will be covering things like pigmentation and acne and aging, all of those little ones. So then we're going to go delve into those a little bit deeper, and then the upcoming ones will be treating pigmentation. So we're looking at really what is melanogenesis and understanding all those fundamentals, and then how we can treat it. And then the same with acne, look at all those root causes of acne and how we can also treat it. If anyone does have a topic that they would love us to cover, please pop that down in the chat or email us directly, and we are more than happy to look at putting on something for you guys as well. So let's get started. So let's look at our skin barrier. And I know that this is something that a lot of people do struggle to treat, and we really want to make sure that we're protecting that barrier. We want to get the skin nice and healthy and strong. And then what we're going to see is we're going to see better results for our clients. We're going to see more resilient skins. We're going to be able to do sort of more active treatments and get quicker, faster results for them. So let's have a look at how we can repair that barrier. And I do find a lot of people are a little bit unsure about, is it impaired? Or has the structure been imbalanced, and how to fix that? So we're going to really show you how to identify that correctly. So before we get into that, let's go back to basics a bit. And I think sometimes bringing it back to basics is really key, because I remember when I first did my course 10,000 years ago, we touch on skin, and then we kind of don't really look at it again after that. So really going back to it and having a look at how the skin is actually structured and where everything is working. So that also helps us treat it correctly. So I do a lot of talking, and I sometimes talk too much. So Rachel, if I talk too much, just wind me up a little bit. So let's look at the structure of our skin. So we have three main structures that we can see here. So obviously our epidermis, this is where we mainly work as beauty therapists, and it's our protective layer of the skin. So this is our outermost layer. So this all protects us from pollutants. It also allows those nutrients and that moisture to sit there, and we all want to protect it so that those nutrients and that moisture doesn't come off the skin. We want to make sure that that's nice and protected. Then we want to have our dermis nice and healthy and strong in here. So this is where all of our glands and everything is starting to be produced. Those blood vessels, everything in there is feeding that epidermis. So if we have a really strong, healthy dermis, then the epidermis is going to be even stronger and healthier and reproduce more effectively. And then our hypodermis. So this is what gives us that cushioning, that insulation, those muscles, and all of our organs sit down there. So this is what's going to give us that support and mattress to the skin. So if we've got all of these 3 layers nice and healthy and strong, then we see that beautiful, healthy, supple skin. Everything works more effective, and we start to see better results on the skin as well. So if we break down what is also happening a little bit further, so we're going to delve a little bit deeper now in here. So we can see with our epidermis, our dermis, and our hypodermis here, we've got that little structure and that cross section of the skin. So when we're looking at our epidermis, we've got our main sites as our keratinocytes, our melanocytes, and our Langerhans cells. Now, all of those cells there are going to work really effectively to give us that strong health, immunity, and support. It's going to help with pigmentation, with maintaining that more uniformly, and also the cell immunity. So when we start to look at our keratinocytes, they're going to be sitting nice and flat onto the skin. And as we go up and up and up, they compact and even more. So we get that really strong barrier function. Now, we know our keratinocytes will slough away, and that's when we do our exfoliation to increase that cell turnover. And as we age, that turnover slows down. So sometimes we need to give it that little bit more of a helping hand. When we look at our melanocytes, so these are going to deposit the melanin into our keratinocyte. So it's really important that we're controlling that, and we're making sure that we've got, either sun protection or tyrosinase inhibitors and nutrients to make sure that that is producing more uniform. We don't want it to overproduce or produce unevenly, because that's when we see pigmentation come out on the skin or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, depending on how it's caused. And then our Langerhans cells. So our Langerhans cells give us that immunity on the skin. So they protect our skin from pathogens and just give it that beautiful immunity and support that it needs to produce nice and healthy. So we really want a strong, healthy skin. Healthy is what we want. And that's the key word that you hear a lot today. And then our collagen and elastin. So this is going to give us that more firmness, that support. I like to refer to it as the mattress of the skin. If we have a sagging mattress, that's when we start to see those wrinkles and lines. So if we've got a beautiful, strong, healthy mattress in the skin, then we're going to have less aging, less lines, less wrinkles. It's going to be plump, and that's what we're wanting. So you can see where those different layers are working. So our epidermis, we've got the keratinocytes, the melanocytes, and the Langerhans cells. When we go that little bit further down in our dermis, we've got that collagen and elastin, and then we've got our subcutaneous fat layer down through our hypodermis as well. So hopefully that was a good little refresher for everyone, because I know sometimes we don't go back to that for a while, do we, Rachel?
No, we don't, do we?
No, so it's nice just to do a little recap.
Yeah.
So now I have spoken about this already, so I will just touch on this one here, but I love this little diagram here, and it really shows us that real structure and function of the skin, because if we understand the layers and the function of the skin, we're really going to understand how that skin barrier is working and how to protect it more effectively. Now you can see here that when we are down in our basal layer, those keratinocytes are really nice and plump and juicy, and they're nice and healthy and strong. We can also see down through here our little melanocytes producing that melanin in the skin, and that's when it's going to give us that color. So when they're not working effectively, or when there's an injury or trauma or inflammation, or we've been out in the sun, we're going to start to overproduce this, and that's when we start to get those more pigmented lesions. So if we're controlling that nice and effectively, then we're going to produce it nice and evenly. As we get up in our layers, you can see that they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're shrinking down. And then you can see up on that stratum corneum where they're nice and flat. And that's what we want to see. We want to see them flat, but we want to see them compact onto the skin. Because if they're nice and compact, they're protecting that skin barrier. But if they are not being maintained and looked after, they'll kind of sit a little bit more angled and open, and that's when pathogens and things can get through. So the other little thing we can see here is our little Langerhans cell, and that's what gives us that cell immunity. So when we are looking at that cell immunity and support on the skin, we really want to make sure that's healthy and strong, and then supporting all of those other bilayers on here as well. So when we do, when we are increasing our cell turnover, we're increasing all of that activity. We're encouraging it to regenerate and regenerate nice and evenly. So we don't want to over exfoliate, but then we're not maintaining the health of the skin. Because if we over exfoliate and we're taking all of these layers off, then we're leaving it susceptible to damage and compromising it. So we're going to talk about how to protect that much more effectively. Rach, do you have anything else you want to add to that one?
No, I think you covered all that one really well.
Perfect. And if anyone does have a question or wants me to go back over something, just pop it down and we will go back over it for you. Now let's look at our barrier function. And this is what's really important to understand. So it's referred to in so many different ways, but it's commonly referred to as our lipid barrier. And this is what's going to give us that support onto the skin. And like if you look at this picture up the top here, it's nice and healthy, it's strong, it's compact, and it's allowing those pathogens and those harmful bacteria and substances to bounce away. It's protecting that skin. And that's what we ultimately want to get to. We want to get to a nice, healthy, strong barrier function. When we've got a good, strong barrier function, we're going to minimize water loss, and the skin is going to stay healthy, hydrated, and plump. We're going to trap that water into our stratum corneum, and it's going to help prevent any transepidermal water loss. We're also going to help our natural moisturizing factor and stop that from leaching out from underneath. And then we're also going to stop all of those pathogens from coming in from the external factor, toxins, pollutants, UV, all of those harmful things that come onto our skin. And you can see in our bottom picture where the barrier of the skin and the keratinocytes are not nice and strong and healthy. And then it's allowing all of these harmful pathogens to come in. So we need to look at supporting that and protecting it. So when we look at our skin barrier defense function, our skin barrier has three main functions of defense. So we have the natural microflora on the skin, which is commonly referred to as our microbiome. So these are little microorganisms that work to protect and support the immunity system of our skin. So they're going to keep it really nice and healthy and protective. And we talk a lot about skin microbiome or microbiome in general about our gut. But we also have it all over our whole skin. And sometimes when we over wash and exfoliate, we're stripping that all away from the skin. So we do need to look at protecting that. Then we have our epidermal barrier. So this is basically, we're going to relook at our stratum corneum, and we want to get that healthy and strong because that's our next line of defense. And then we have the immune system. So this is where the skin is being attacked by the pathogens. So if we have that strong, healthy immunity in that skin, we're going to make sure everything is nice and healthy and strong. We're going to support that stratum corneum, which is then going to support that microbiome on the skin as well. So all of those things are now linked together. So now we're going to delve a little bit deeper into the microbiome because this is quite a hot topic and something that everybody talks about. So let's understand what it actually is, which is quite important to understand it. Now, we can see our microbiome on the skin, and this is basically a community of microorganisms, so bacteria and fungus and things like that. So this is going to this is naturally inhabits our skin and sits on that surface, and you can't see it. So, but this is our beautiful protective layer on the skin. It helps to protect that natural environment on the skin and give our skin that natural protection from pathogens, and that microorganisms will all work in harmony together. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when those microorganisms are on there, they're all working at that happy, healthy level where they are allowing our acid mantle to work more effectively, and they're being this little defense system. So think of it like as a little army of immunity with their little soldiers up, and they're there to fight off any harmful bacterias. Could also be a skincare product that you put on the skin that is disrupting it. It could be a medication, a topical, anything like that that could be disrupting that. And we do know that when we get sick or we've gone on medication, that sometimes our skin, it just can be a little bit irritated and raw, and that's because we're disrupting that natural microbiome on the skin. So any like little instances of any irritants can disrupt this. So it's important to make sure we put that good healthy bacteria back on the skin and those microorganisms to make sure that we're staying nice and healthy and strong, and our little army of defense is back up there and protecting our skin. So when we look at the key part in our immunity system for this, we have our physical little blocks of bad bacteria from the skin. So the skin can produce its own antimicrobial peptides called AMPs and antimicrobial lipids, also known as our AMLS. And these are basically disrupted and affected. The main things that disrupt this and strip this barrier and that lipid barrier on the skin is things like we've touched before, cleansers and other surfactants that we put onto the skin. Rach, would you add anything to that?
No, I think you've got that all covered. I love my little army of microbes.
My army of men, I like that. My little soldiers, we're ramped up and ready to fight. So make sure we protect that. Now, our next layer that we're going to look at is our acid mantle. And the acid mantle is something that we do talk about quite a bit when we look at a pH scale, and we will touch on a pH scale shortly. But this is also what's going to really affect it. So we've got our microbiome. Now we're going to go to our acid mantle and make sure that we are looking at this, and this is our next line of defense. So the acid mantle is produced by our eccrine glands. So we've got our sweat and our sebum that sit onto that top layer of the skin, that beautiful film that protects it. And that acid mantle normally sits between a 4.5 and a 5.5. So keeping that sort of pH number in mind, we want to really look at what is the pH of what we're putting onto our products of our skin. And then if we are going to do a skin treatment and we maybe might do a peel, are we going to lower that and strip that even more? So we really need to keep that in mind. So is the acid mantle intact first? That's the important thing. If it's not intact and it's impaired, let's get it healthy and strong, and we'll talk about how to do that. But when we look at our four main important functions for the skin to protect us, we've got the acid mantle will prevent us from infections. It's going to support our microbiome on the skin. It's going to do that physical shield and stop those harmful irritants from getting in. And it's also going to slow that water loss on the skin. So when we have a look at this and look at how it's going to prevent infections. So if we've got that beautiful healthy structure of the skin, we've got that sebaceous and that sweat all sitting on top of that skin, and when the pathogens are trying to come in, that's then stopping that from being able to penetrate into the skin. If we have stripped and impaired that, and we've got little breakages through here and an imbalanced acid mantle, they're all going to be able to leach in and come into the skin and cause more damage. So it's really important that we don't overstrip that skin and use harmful soaps and detergents and tonics and things like that to really remove that. A lot of people, especially when they've got acne, what do? They wash and they wash and they wash and they wash, and they're pulling all of those natural sebums and oils out of the skin, and then it can get worse and more aggravated. So we've also got the acid mantle that's going to support that microbiome. So when we look at that and that healthy microbiome on the skin, if we've got that beautiful protection on top and we're keeping that nice and strong as well, we're allowing that microbiome to flourish. It's really got that that sort of nutrient and support system that it has to grow and maintain and protect our skin. And when we start to strip that acid mantle, then it's losing its line of defense, and then it's not being able to be nice and healthy and strong and stay supporting our skin. And then if we're also putting a little harmful soaps and cleansers on the skin, we're stripping that away again. Then we're also going to talk about how it protects us from our physical protection. So if we look at that physical protection, when it's got that beautiful, strong, healthy barrier on there, then it's also allowing, with our stratum corneum, it's not allowing everything to come up and out either. So it's protecting it from both ways. So it's not letting pollutants come in, but it's also not letting all those nutrients come out of the skin. It's giving us that protection from both ends. Because it's going to be nice and strong and protective, and we're keeping it all in there, because if we think about that oil and sweat on the skin, that water and moisture level from underneath can't come out and evaporate. It's got that layer of protection on there to slow that down and to stop that from leaking out. So we don't get that transepidermal water loss that we would see normally. So that's a recap on the acid mantle and how important it is to make sure that that is nice and healthy. Our last layer is going to be our stratum corneum. And so we've got this microbiome, we've got our acid mantle, and now we're going to go down to that stratum corneum. And I think everyone forgets about the stratum corneum because they just think we need to exfoliate it, we need to increase cell turnover, we need to get those new healthy skin cells growing. And yes, we need to do all of that, but we need to do it in the right way because this is our main protection layer. So this is the layer that will sit onto that surface and protect our skin from damage. It will help with our Langerhans cells, our melanocytes. It will help when they are being produced in our basal layer, that they are produced nice and healthy and correctly. So what we want to do is we don't want to overstrip this. We don't want to make it so thin and fragile and weak. We need to keep it nice and strong. Everyone sort of thinks that the stratum corneum is a dead layer of the skin, but not unfortunately, as time is going on, we realize that there's little actual enzymes in there, and those little enzymes work to support those other bilayers of the skin and those other layers such as the Langerhans cells from getting that support and immunity and growth that it needs to function correctly, which is why it is so important that we keep that stratum corneum nice and healthy. We're allowing that enzyme function to work as its natural defense function. So when we have a look here on our skin little surface wall, we can see that this is what our normal skin looks like to our damaged skin. And we can see that we have all of those protective layers on here. You've got your sebum barrier, which we're going to refer to as our acid mantle here. And then we've got that stratum corneum, which is those nice tightly packed cells. Because they're all nice and tightly packed and laying flat, they're helping to protect everything from the bottom and also from the top. So we're not going to get all of that transepidermal water loss from leaching out. And we're also not going to get any of those pollutants coming in. But when our acid mantle is disrupted and our stratum corneum is all laying up and down and all over the place, it's allowing pathways for all of that moisture to come up, but as well as all those allergens and bacteria to come down into the skin. Even things like UV damage, if that UV damage leaches all the way down, what's that going to do? It's going to stimulate our melanosomes to produce more pigment and overabundance of pigment, and then we're going to get that pigmentation onto the skin. So it's really important that we look at protecting that, and we're going to tell you how to protect that in a second. So that's our recap on the stratum corneum, and hopefully that has helped everybody with understanding the skin barrier and how it works and how to protect it. So, Rach, do you have anything else to add to any of that until we go into the factors?
I think it's covered that really well. It's really important to recognize that it's not just one defense that our skin has. Our skin's pretty amazing, isn't it? Having those three layers to really protect, and we really need to nurture them and feed them as well.
100%. And that's the key, nurturing and feeding, because if we give them the right nutrients and right ingredients to work effectively onto the skin, then it's going to be beautiful, healthy and strong, and we're not going to have skin barrier issues. So these are just some of the issues, and we will touch on more and go through them about how our microbiome is affected. So we do know pollution is a big one. Living in those high pollutant environments, what we put on our skin, smoking, all of those harmful bacteria are all disrupting our microbiome. Chemicals that we put on our skin, sometimes we think we're putting a really good chemical on the skin and it's not so great, or it's not formulated correctly, is another big thing. Or the way it's delivered into the skin as well. So also other pathogenic microbes that could be around in the environment as well can cause damage on the skin. Our daily hygiene and detergents. I think this is probably the biggest one that we will see coming across to us. People using things from the supermarket cleansers or pharmacies, concoctions they've made themselves. Soap bars as well is another big factor. It's stripping that microbiome, and when we really start to look at the pH scale, we'll see how that really affects. Even stress. If our body is stressed, we know that is taking a big toll. Now, I'm going to stop for 1 second, and I really, really do apologize this. I put my computer on to charge, but didn't turn it on at the power point and it's about to die. So give me a second. Don't you love technology? And at least you know we're real, right? This is a real live training. Things will go wrong. All right, so we got power again. We're good. Was wondering why my computer just dimmed really dark. So stress, and that's one of those typical stress environments. If we're in a high stress environment, we leave our skin more susceptible. Our body is run down. Our body is more challenged, and it just doesn't have all of that nutrients to support itself and regenerate and keep healthy and strong. So sometimes we need to look at what are our stress factors, and unfortunately we can't get rid of the kids and we can't put the dogs out, so we still have to do all of that. So what are our other key factors we can do to support and maintain? Aging. As we age, everything tends to slow down in terms of our cell turnover will slow down. We don't produce as much collagen and elastin. We're not producing as much hyaluronic acid, and our skin tends to dry out. And as it's drying out, we're not getting that moisture level and that sebum protection on the acid mantle. So sometimes it's important to put those extra nutrients in there, to put that extra oil and moisture into the skin to help that barrier. And then lifestyle. So depending on what we do, are we out working out in the sun all day? Are we a gym junkie who's constantly sweating and we're constantly cleansing our face? Are we swimming in chlorine that's constantly drying and stripping our skin? There's all of those factors, and so let's have a look at what is in their lifestyle that could be affecting this and how we can educate our clients, and it's all about education, to make those little changes to assist. So now that we know the factors, we know how the skin barrier is formed, now we need to look at restoring and recovering the barrier function of our skin. So by restoring an optimal environment of the skin and recovering its skin barrier function, skin is less prone to acne, irritations, dryness, and elasticity. We can't do anything else to the skin unless we have a strong barrier function. So it's so important to get that part down first. If we ever try and peel or needle or do anything to a skin barrier that is impaired, what do we see? We see more reactions, more complications, more sensitivity. So we need to get that beautiful, healthy, and strong first. So we have touched over these, and I'm just going to touch over a few more as well. But the other big thing we see is over exfoliation. We know that we have those exfoliation junkies and they love to exfoliate. So if you do know you have a client that is an exfoliation junkie and has to do it every day, you might substitute their powerful, strong exfoliant for something that is designed to be used more gently and designed to be used every day. It could have more like a enzyme in there, or a really gentle bead, or one that does self-crushing. So if it does, if they do put too much pressure, it might dissolve. Whatever it may be, have a look at how we can change that into their regime. If you know that they are using a cleanser that is drying and stripping their skin, switch it out for a different cleanser that might be a bit more gentle. Might still foam, but it might be a more gentle foaming cleanser that has less detergents and harsh ingredients in there. Over-the-counter products. Now, this is probably the biggest one we're going to face in here. That your client who walks through the door and they want to have the highest end treatment, but they only want to use what they're using from the supermarket or what they heard was great and from the chemist or whatever it is online. And you know that that product has nothing but bad things in there, and its skin's raw and sensitized, and I know you have those clients walking through your door. We need to educate them. Don't do your treatments. Don't be bullied into, I have to do this, this, and this. It's all about that education for your client. Switch them over one by one with their product. Educate them on why they need to have those particular ingredients, what that product is doing for their skin, and they'll start to see the results, and they'll see that their skin is getting better, healthier and stronger each and every time. And then you gain that rapport with that client as well. And that's really important. If you gain that rapport and trust and they see that how effective everything is working, then that's a lifetime client for you as well. Excessive professional treatments. Now, I know that some people love to do high-end treatments and sometimes they overdo it on the client's skin, or they might go, I've sold in a package of 10 to my client, but we've already got the results in 4 or 6. So switch out those other treatments for something else. You might have to slow that process down. If you see that skin is not healing as effectively as you thought it was, don't do that next treatment. Reassess that skin each and every time and go, okay, we're not there yet to move on. So what should we do? Let's maybe do a gentle facial. Let's maybe give you an extra 2 weeks to heal. Let's switch out something else. So really keep assessing that skin and making sure that we're not the ones causing the damage of what we're doing as well. Now, we've touched on UV damage as well. So UV is one of the bigger factors to disrupt all of our skin, not only to age us, pigmentation, but it does really destroy that that barrier on the skin. So really make sure that you are wearing an SPF, reapplying your SPF. Check that your SPF that you are actually using is safe for your skin, because not all SPF and ingredients are healthy for the skin. So have a look at what we're putting on the skin as well. Reapplying is also really important, but also wear a hat or stay out of the sun or protect our face as much as we can. Now, medications we have spoken about. Now, sometimes this can really disrupt that barrier function on the skin. So when you are taking medications and if you can see that that skin is impaired, might need some extra, maybe some antioxidants, nutrients, a bit more oil protection on the skin just to support that. Aging is another big one as well. So as we age, we touched on, the collagen and elastin slows down, our cell turnover slows down, so we have a bit more of those dead skin cells on top, and sometimes they can be slightly raised and not laying nice and flat and compact. And also we're producing less sebum, so we need to give that little helping hand, that bit more moisture and nutrients. We might need to do a bit more gentle exfoliation onto there. And then once the skin is all nice and healthy, then we could put something in like retinol to give collagen and support, but don't jump to the retinol first. If you have an impaired barrier and you put retinol, we're going to impair it even more. And then extreme temperatures. We want to make sure that we are not having excessive hot showers, or then really cold showers, or putting cold packs on the skin, because that extreme temperature changes can disrupt that barrier. And especially if we're out in the heat, or we're coming into winter now, well, soon, but it's getting colder around here. So if we've got the fire on and we're sitting in front of a roasting fire, that's going to pull all of that moisture out of the skin. We're producing that heat and inflammation, and that's going to dry and impair our barrier as well. So keep all these little factors in mind, and you have to be that little fact finder when doing your consultation with your clients. What could their trigger be? And have a look, and maybe it could be a multiple effect of this as well. So now we're going to have a look at our pH, and we can see that our skin is between the 4.5 and 5.5. So that's sort of where our ideal skin is going to be. Now, when we look at things that tell us that they're pH balanced, yes, they could be pH balanced, but they're not pH balanced to the skin. They're pH balanced to the pH scale. So one of the, a lot of the ones that I see out there that the dermatologists recommend, or that you see online, everyone might tell you that I'm on maybe like Cetaphil or any of those cleansers that are supposed to be pH balanced. Yes, they are pH balanced to 7 on our neutral pH scale. But because that sits a lot higher than our ideal skin level, what does that do to the skin? It puts it more into that alkaline. It's drying and stripping our skin. We sit more in the acidic level of the pH scale. So you will start to see that skin dry out and become impaired. And that's really important to understand that. And that's not just with that one particular product. There's many products like out there on the market. If we are using something like soap, a soap bar, to be in a rock hard form, it sits in that alkaline level. So sometimes it will sit at around that 10 mark. So if our skin's at 4.5 to 5.5 and we put something on there that's 10, what is that doing? Drying, stripping, and damaging our skin. If we then also look at that other end of the scale and we decide we want to peel that client and we've got an impaired barrier, and just say that they're using a cleanser or a soap bar and they're up here, and we then do a peel and drop it to about 2, we're going to get a really big reaction on the skin. The skin, they're going to feel hot, sensitive, inflamed. We might see blanching and frosting straight away. We could have a really red impaired barrier, and then we're going to spend all of our time trying to repair that skin even further. So make sure it's healthy and strong first. Make sure it's sitting at that ideal 4.5 to 5.5 level, because then when you do drop it to peel, you're not dropping it as far, and it's going to heal and respond so much quicker. So I love going back to this pH, because I think we did this at school and then we never did that again. So I'm going to hand you over to Rachel for a little bit, because I think I've spoken way too much, and Rachel's going to talk you through the next few slides.
So Jess, we've gone through what makes up a healthy skin barrier and all those different layers and all that defense. But what I'd like to go through now is what those actually present as, what a reactive skin type looks at and what a sensitive skin type looks at. And the reason why I want to differentiate these is that it's a tricky condition to look at it and to diagnose as well. So first of all, our sensitive skin. Now, sensitive skin is often it's a skin type, it's a genetic type, and it's something that normally presents when we're quite young and we have throughout our life. And these people, these sensitive skin types, normally have a bit of redness there, a bit of irritation happening. They're more often than not quite dehydrated, and they can sometimes be quite dry as well. Not always, but dryness can go along with that too. Now, when that skin is then overly dry or it's injured, it can't protect itself any longer. So what happens is those little nerve endings on that skin then lead to reactions and lead to that skin becoming even more sensitive. So then when we have a look at our reactive skin, our sensitized skin, or our impaired skin, there's lots of different names for it and people use lots of different things, but it's all that saying, that reactive, sensitized, impaired skin barrier. This is a skin condition, and this is something that has been caused to the skin. This is something that we've done to our skin to cause it like that. So when we're looking, sorry, just...
Sorry. My thing just wanted to go crazy then.
Wild. So when we're looking at that reactive skin, that sensitized skin, that impaired skin, it's not technically an official term, but it's something that we use to describe how that skin reacts when it's exposed to certain ingredients, certain products, certain treatments as well. And what happens is it then reacts. So those little nerve endings become really irritated and they start reacting, leading to that redness, that irritation. It can be quite a confusing skin condition to identify and to treat, because it doesn't often react to that same thing twice. And it's often paired with dehydration as well, because it's more often than not caused by overdoing things on the skin.
I love that it's hard to sometimes try and
really
identify, because it doesn't react to the same thing, and you kind of think, yes, I know what my trigger is, and then it doesn't react to that same thing again. It's something new, and it's so hard. So I love that, Rach. That was great.
So when we're looking at a sensitive skin, so remember, that's something that's genetic, that's something that's with us for life. These people are often asthmatics, they often suffer from eczema, from psoriasis and hay fever. Whereas when we're looking at a reactive skin type, they generally have a history of irritant contact dermatitis, dermatitis, and immediate contact reaction. So some impaired characteristics. So to help you guys identify that reactive skin type, that impaired skin barrier, there's often on the face, we'll see a lot of diffuse redness. And that can be all over, or it can be patchy. So it can be in certain areas on the face, on the nose, on the cheeks, on the chin. There's generally a lot of flushing and a lot of persistent redness. It doesn't just go down. There can be facial swelling. That skin's quite often quite rough to touch as well because it's dehydrated, because we've been taking things from it, because we don't have that healthy skin barrier to trap all that water in there and keep all those lipids in there. It can often be quite rough to touch. So when we are diagnosing our sensitive skin, sorry, our sensitized skins, our reactive skins, we need to touch and feel them too. There's often dry patches. Your clients will often say as well that there's stinging and tingling and burning when they use their normal products. That's a big red flag there for you as well, that they've now got a reactive skin barrier. And when we touch it and when they touch it as well, it's often quite sore and hot, and you can feel that heat coming off it.
Another one to add, Rach, and I was just thinking about this as you were saying it, and I didn't even think about this when I was creating this PowerPoint, but my skin, I get really reactive and I break out in hives. So for me, I get those hive reaction or those little bumps on the skin, and and sometimes I do need an antihistamine to bring it down, but it's always something I put on my skin topically that has set it off. But that's, I just thought of that as well, going, why
that's another great one. 100%, yeah. So this one is just showing, because I said it is quite a tricky skin condition to diagnose, and it never presents exactly the same on each person. So we just wanted to show you a few different types of impaired skin barriers, of reactive skin barriers. Sometimes it can be quite minimal and quite hard to see. Other times it can be a lot of redness, a lot of swelling, a lot of heat, hives, roughness, dryness of the skin. This is just starting to give you guys a picture in your head to help starting to recognize that skin condition when they do walk through our doors. So what we want to do is we want to repair the skin first. We don't want to go in with our harsh treatments, with our peels, with our more advanced modalities. We want to repair the skin first. So we want to get that healthy skin barrier function, because that healthy barrier is going to then protect the skin. And a very healthy functioning skin is then going to heal faster, and it's going to then respond to those more advanced treatments as well. So when we are repairing, and everyone needs to repeat this, less is more. Always, 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 less is more. So we want to spend less time. And what I mean is, rather than doing an hour-long facial in clinic, take it back to that half an hour, do a little express time. Less is more. Less heat. So we don't want to be getting the steamer onto our client's face. We don't want to be doing a massage and creating that heat on that face. We also want to recommend to our clients not to use saunas and steam rooms. Don't go out and sunbathe. We don't want to be pouring more heat into a already raw, hot, sore skin. Less product. I think this one, as therapists, we always want to try and give our client all these gorgeous, beautiful products with all these ingredients to try and help to repair that skin. More often than not, what we really need to do is take a step back and pare down what we're doing. We go back down to just a nice little gentle cleanser and a nice gentle moisturizer. Keep it nice and simple. Don't be giving them a 20-step regime, because it's going to then start to react to that skin again. It's going to not heal. It's going to create more problems. And same with less treatments. Again, I think our natural reaction is just we want to help them. We want to nurture them as fast as possible. We need to, again, take that step back, take it slowly. This isn't a race. We need to slowly do this. So less is more with your treatments as well. So maybe instead of doing it fortnightly, let's pare back to once every 3 weeks or once every 4 weeks, dependent on how your client's reacting and what their skin is presenting with.
And I love that less product where you were saying keep it to a gentle cleanser and moisturizer, because that is really powerful. If you have someone who's impaired and you're throwing all these products at it and the skin is getting more inflamed and more hot, they're all fighting together and they're all trying to work, and the skin's not ready and healthy to take that many ingredients. So it's as well, if something's going to react, you don't know what's reacting. So introduce one product, let them be on it, let their skin calm down, get used to that product, then introduce the next product, and really do that slowly. And that will also depend as well on the level of how impaired the barrier is. If it's just slightly impaired, you might be able to do 2 or 3 products at the one time, still keep them gentle. But if it's completely impaired and we've got a stripped red raw barrier, one product at a time is really key. Cleanser first, then moisturizer, and then keep going from there. So that's a great tip, Rachel.
100%. Less is more.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So when we're looking at ingredients to really nurture and feed and heal our skin, there's a few key ones that we want to be popping into our clients' home care or their skincare diet. Now, the first really good ingredient is squalane. So squalane is going to support that skin's microbiome that we were talking about before. It's going to prevent transepidermal water loss and really provide a softness and smoothness to that skin. Another one to look out for is ashwagandha. Now, this is going to really strengthen up that skin defense. It helps to maintain homeostasis between the harmful effects of skin stresses. So things like pollutants, like environment, all of those skin stresses, that ashwagandha is really going to help to strengthen that skin defense for us. Hyaluronic acid, I think we're all quite familiar with this one. Hyaluronic acid is going to hydrate. It's going to help bind water into our skin. So remember when we talked about before, often your reactive skins, your impaired barriers have been stripped. So they're often dehydrated and dry. So that hyaluronic acid is going to help lock that moisture into the skin and really hydrate that skin. Centella extract. This is another great one. It's a very powerful antioxidant, so it's really going to combat those free radicals, and it's a strong anti-inflammatory as well. So it's going to bring that heat, bring that redness, bring that irritation down from our client's skin. Niacinamide. I love niacinamide. This is brilliant for skin resistance. It's going to help reduce sensitivity and reactiveness of the skin and really improve and strengthen that skin tolerance. Flaxseed is another brilliant ingredient to, again, just reinforce that skin structure. And then ceramides. Now, ceramides are going to really moisturize the skin and strengthen that skin barrier, and it helps replace a lipid loss. So again, when we're looking at those reactive skin types, they're often dehydrated, but there can be dryness there as well. So your ceramides are really going to help to replace that lipid loss as well. So with our hyaluronic acid and ceramides, we're really combating both those dry and those dehydrated skins.
I love those ingredients. They're all amazing ones that I want on my skin now.
So when we're treating an impaired skin barrier, it can often, again, be quite confusing. We've talked through ingredients, but what treatments can we recommend for our clients? There's a few that we could recommend. We want to do really gentle, soothing, calming, hydrating facials. Nothing too active, nothing too stimulating. We really want to smooth and soothe and reduce that irritation, that heat, and really pump some hydration into that client's skin. We also want to look at internals. So we all know that our skin is not just our skin on the outside, it's also a reflection of what's going on inside. So we need to have a look at our client's skin internals. Are they getting enough essential fatty acids in their diet? Going through that, looking at their diet, what are they eating? Are they taking those supplements? Are they getting enough of those essential fatty acids? LEDs are a brilliant one. I love LED. I would love to live under an LED if I could, but LEDs are a brilliant one to really help to repair that skin, to help with that wound healing, to reduce that inflammation. And then always looking at our correct home care as well. So this is what we need to do when our clients are in there, looking at those ingredients that we talked about before and making sure they've got that correct skincare, but also remember less. So possibly paring it back, take it back, strip it back to basics, start on that cleanser and maybe that moisturizer with those key ingredients in there, making sure that they're not using a whole heap of AHAs and BHAs, especially if that's what's caused that impaired skin barrier as well. Maybe getting a little bit of enzymes in there to start off with. So all of these together are just some things that we can start to think about to then treat those impaired skin barriers.
I love that. Nice and simple. We don't want to overcomplicate it. It's a complicated condition, so we want to just be really simple with it as well. So they're great. So I'm now going to talk to you a little bit about some examples of what we can do for the skin for treating this. So this is just an example of a great little facial that you could do. So for those of you who are familiar with Image have created this new microbiome range to rebalance that skin and rebalance that microorganisms on the skin and get that skin healthy and strong to especially if you've got an impaired barrier. 3 simple little products, but are very, very powerful in seeing those great changes within the skin. So when we look at this is our classic facial that goes for 25 minutes. So we really want to do a really quick, fast treatment, get less product on the skin, calm, soothe, repair, hydrate, rebalance, put the lipid barrier back on there and get it beautiful and healthy and strong. So when you are thinking about these facials, like we said, less time, less heat, less product. And that's exactly what we're doing with these ones. So great little treatment to do. LED, we know how powerful LED is. We want to be progressive rather than aggressive, and that's really important. Build the skin slowly. We don't want to go straight from here to here. We need to slowly do those incremental builds, and LED is so powerful with that because you can slowly keep re-energizing and reinforcing and strengthening that skin. We want to support and get that skin healing. We want to regenerate it, and we want to boost how effective it is. So once we get this beautiful and healthy and strong, this will determine our positive outcomes of our treatments. So when we're looking at LED, there's really only one important wavelength we want to use when looking at an impaired skin barrier, and that's our near infrared at 830 nanometers, and that's really key. You need that specific wavelength to be able to calm, soothe, regenerate. It helps to bring that homeostasis back intact. We're going to reduce pigmentation. We're going to reduce inflammation, which is the biggest one. We're going to reduce that redness and that irritation. So if you've got someone who's reactive, hot, sensitive, irritated, just near infrared only. Don't put red in there. We don't want to put heat into the skin straight away. Red will be fantastic later on after we've calmed and soothed and repaired, but we need to get that barrier healthy, nice and strong first. So great little one for sensitive skin. Skin soaking. Now, this is a newer concept, but an amazing, powerful concept. And I don't know if all of you are familiar with this, but skin soaking is something that's really quite key to get the skin hydrated, plump, put all of those little stratum corneum cells that we've got standing up and helping to flatten those as well. So when we talk about skin soaking, this is something that we've learned over the years with Bestow and how amazing and powerful it is. And let me know if anyone has done skin soaking, because pop it in the chat, because if you've done skin soaking and done it effectively, the power that you see on the skin is amazing. So what skin soaking does is it's basically infusing that moisture into the skin topically and rehydrating and plumping and then locking it in. So the way we do our skin soaking is we take a cloth and we put it into just some warm water. We don't want it too hot and we don't want it cold. We want it just right, like the 3 little bears. And we wanted to put it in, wring it out, but not too, we still want to have moisture in there. And we want to hold that onto our skin. So we would basically cleanse and then do this step. So push that onto the skin and just take a couple of breaths and then put it back into the water, bring it back up again, do it, press it back in, and we do this about 3 times. And what that does, it's actually putting water topically onto the skin and holding it into our cells. Then as soon as we're finished that, and the key is to do it instantly. Don't go walking around. Don't go from the bathroom to the bedroom. Everything has to be there with you. As soon as you have taken that cloth off and that moisture is still nice and on the skin and dampened, then you put your serums and things or an oil straight onto the skin. So me personally, I like to then put more hyaluronic acid over the top, and then I'll put the rest of my serums, and then I'll lock it in with just a couple of drops. You don't want a big whole oily palm, but I'll just put a couple of drops of oil into my skin, and then I'll press everything in, and it locks it in. So it pushes that moisture into the skin. You're then pushing all of those ingredients on, and hyaluronic acid on a damp skin is so much more powerful than hyaluronic acid on a dry skin. So try that if you haven't tried it. Enforce it in, push it all in, lock it all in with your oil, and you will have glowing, plump, hydrated, protected skin cells all day. They're plump, they're hydrated, your stratum corneum's laying flat. We've got that beautiful lipid barrier and acid mantle intact, and then we've got that beautiful place for that healthy microorganisms to grow and flourish there as well. Now, when we look at EFAs, doing EFAs and taking them internally and making sure we got that nutrients and support, or if we have a beautiful, strong, maybe we've got avocado oil that we put directly onto our skin, or whatever it is that you've got, from internal and topical, it's really important at helping inflammation within the skin. It regulates our oil flow and helps to give us a nice, beautiful, healthy produced oil flow, and not a congested, thick, sluggish oil as well. We're going to maintain hydration. We're going to be able to allow those nutrients to grow, develop, and flourish and absorb where they need to more effectively as well. So it's really important that we look at EFAs from topical and external as well, and really apply that to our diet and our skin. Now let's look at what is our plan for repairing an impaired barrier. So the plan needs to be, first, let's reduce inflammation. Let's take that heat and that inflammation out of the skin. Let's then start to soothe it, hydrate it, and then let's protect it and prevent it from any further harmful sun and pollutants. So the first thing is always that inflammation. Heat and inflammation, let's reduce that first. Once we've got that, then we can start to target and tackle the rest of our issues as well. And then lastly, if we have done all of this correctly and followed all these simple things, we're going to get a beautiful, healthy skin. And when we look at a beautiful, healthy skin, we're going to have a compact stratum corneum. We're going to have that beautiful, strong barrier defense. It's going to be nice and even in color. Our melanocytes are going to be evenly distributed, beautiful, even texture on the skin. It's going to be plump and juicy. Those collagen and elastin, that snapback and that thick support of the mattress is going to be optimal. We're going to have that beautiful hydration. The oil flow is going to be nice and even and balanced. And we're going to have good communication, nice, strong, healthy Langerhans cells, and everything's communicating effectively. So all of these factors will give us that beautiful, healthy glow to the skin. And that is what's important. And this is what we want to get to. So take all these simple little steps that we've done. Hopefully we've helped you today with showing you how to recognize an impaired barrier, how to get it healthy and strong, what's causing it, and then how to repair it. So there are a few questions in the chat, which I'll go through before. And I apologize, Rach, when I skipped your slide before, I was trying to look at the chat and I hit the wrong button.
Absolutely.
Really, everyone who knows me knows I can't multitask. So just going to go through. If anyone does have a little chat, a question, pop it down and I'll just read this. Oh, great. So someone said they also look for balanced hormones as well. That's definitely another big one. So that's a great little tip. If someone's hormones are not balanced as well, that's definitely going to throw that out. So we need to look at rebalancing that. So that's a great little tip as well. Ashwagandha has been a big topic internally and externally. So, yep, that's another big one. And soaking, definitely give the soaking a try. We really want to see how you go with that soaking. what oil do we recommend with skin soaking? So there are many oils, any type of topical oil that you have in your range. If you have any of our products here, we do have our Bestow Beauty, the Graces oils that can be used. Image have their facial oils as well, or if you just have any facial oil, it's not so important about what's actually the specific oil, but just have an oil that is great for the skin and that will hydrate and easily absorb and not block the skin. So we don't want anything that's going to be comedogenic or anything like that. We just want to have those few drops and help to lock that into the skin. So just give it a go, try it, get back to us and let us know what you have tried and what you've done. I think we've answered all the questions. Rach, is there any that I've missed?
Not that I can see, no.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us again on one of our webinars. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the skin barrier workshop. Thank you, Rachel, for joining me as well. Sometimes I'd like to hear from someone other than me talking constantly.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. I enjoyed today.
And join us next month for prepping our skin for peels, because I love that topic. I really love to show how you can prepare it nice and healthy and strong. So stay tuned for that one. And have a great month, everyone. And we'll see you again soon.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.